Daniel, during the 2 years he was blind, Iris took meticulous care of him by his side. He held her face and said he would marry her. Later, Iris waited for him to regain his sight, waited for him to return to a high position. In the end, she waited until his first love returned to the country. They tugged and tormented each other, playing out the fiery chase of a crematorium drama, making Iris look like a joke. Iris removed the ring he had carelessly bought. She wouldn't wait for his belated proposal. Daniel, she no longer wants either. The night was thick. Iris stood before the floor-to-ceiling window. On the phone, Dean David. I am willing to accept your offer. Hello, everyone, welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. On the other end of the line, a deep voice could barely contain its joy. That's wonderful. With you joining us, I believe those star children will soon embrace the sunlight. But, he changed the subject, expressing surprise mixed with confusion. Aren't you about to get married? Dean David had invited her a month ago. Iris was their top choice as an outstanding psychologist for their autism rehabilitation center. However, at that time Iris declined because she was getting married and didn't want to commute between two places. But he said he would often go there to provide free medical services. Although he could understand, the director still felt somewhat regretful and unwilling to give up. Left his business card with her. Within a year, if you change your mind, you can call me anytime, whether it's salary, benefits, equipment, or the level of care for those children. Many places can't compare. At the time, she accepted it out of politeness, never expecting to call back so soon. Iris lowered her eyes, her long lashes veiling her emotions as she stated flatly, we won't be getting married. This time when I leave City J, I'm never coming back. The voice on the other end suddenly rose sharply. What? As if realizing his outburst, Dean David cleared his throat. Among smart people, a hint is enough. He awkwardly changed the subject. Iris, if possible, you're welcome to treat the rehabilitation center as your home. Iris tightened her grip on the phone. I will. No one could blame Director David for his strong reaction. Before Jessica returned to the country, everyone had assumed that Iris would marry Daniel. Her love story with Daniel was widely known and envied. For years ago, Daniel lost his sight in an unexpected car accident, with little hope of recovery. In the Garrison family, a complex clan that prioritized profit above all else, this accident caused him to fall from grace instantly. The once promising prodigy became a discarded pawn. Even his childhood sweetheart broke off their engagement and vanished from Daniel's life. Disappearing to another country, he became depressed, brooding, and prone to violent outbursts. Everyone avoided him like the plague. Only Iris stepped forward willingly, accompanying him to recuperate in the remote old house, healing his emotional wounds. In the aged villa, he repeatedly gave up on himself, smashing everything in the old house with his cane, pushing Iris into the wreckage, snarling menacingly, "Get out, stay away from me." Yet Iris trembled as she stood up each time, embracing him. Daniel, don't give up, you'll get better. You need someone to take care of you now. Don't push me away, okay? She filled the yard with flowers. Daniel couldn't see the colors but could smell their fragrance. On sunny days, she would push him outside to bask in the sun. On rainy days, they would stay indoors listening to the rain. His condition gradually improved, and he would sometimes Iris while she helped him change his shirt, asking absent-mindedly, "Are the scars on my back very ugly?" Iris would always gently kiss his scars. Not scary at all. Surviving the gates of hell makes you the bravest person alive. She stood by him through his most difficult 2 years. During countless medical visits that eroded hope, Daniel would bury his face in the crook of her neck and cry, "Iris, I will get better, right? It will definitely get better. When I recover, will you marry me?" So she waited and waited, until he regained his sight, until he returned to his high position, until he restored that noble demeanor of his. Finally, his 28th birthday arrived, and everyone thought he would propose. He never expected that the white moonlight who had once abandoned him would return to the country. Appearing at the climax of the banquet, he resented her, hated her, and made Jessica feel humiliated at every turn, even throwing their token of love into the swimming pool. "The Francis family is in trouble, and you came to me just for money, didn't you? Pick it up, and I might consider helping you." Just as Jessica jumped into the pool to retrieve it, Daniel could no longer sit still. Rising too abruptly, Iris was pushed to the ground by him, and the collision sent glasses scattering across the table, glass shards embedded into her palm, and beads of blood instantly welled up. The pain filled her eyes with reflexive tears, yet Daniel never once glanced her way. Iris could only watch through blurred vision as Daniel leapt into the pool, then carefully carried Jessica back to shore. Jessica. Don't you know you're hydrophobic? You'd risk your life for such a small amount of money. The woman was drenched, her long hair clinging to her face, tears and water droplets indistinguishable on her cheeks, looking utterly disheveled. Yet she wrapped her arms around Daniel's neck, her voice barely a whisper. But you still care, don't you? Daniel's Adam's apple bobbed repeatedly, his spine stiffening. Don't flatter yourself, yet never pushed away, a poignant scene. Deeply moving love and resentment, even Iris couldn't help but shed tears and applaud for them. But this was supposed to be the day Daniel proposed to her. That day, his white moonlight stood there in simple attire, shedding delicate tears. Enough to make the usually emotionless man lose control once again, yet Iris, with her meticulously applied makeup, became the most pitiful one in the entire room. Everyone was laughing at her misfortune. Only then did she have a moment of profound realization. She had accompanied him through 4 tumultuous years, but the one who lived in Daniel's heart was never truly oneself. She never crossed Daniel's heart wall built for Jessica. Iris made her decision, this iron tree that wouldn't bloom for her. She no longer wanted it. After hanging up the phone, the spacious villa returned to silence, with only the ticking of an old-fashioned clock. This was Iris who had moved it from the old house, Daniel during the time he was blind. He would often sit by the window, staying there all day without speaking, just quietly counting the dong-dong sounds of the clock. When he reached the 11th chime, he would call out her name, Iris, the sun has set. Another day has passed. Will tomorrow be a better day? It will, Iris answered firmly every time, until Daniel regained his sight and they moved out of the old house, leaving everything behind. Daniel said he wanted to completely sever ties with the past. Only this antique clock was brought back by her. Daniel, welcome our sunlight. But now, Iris touched the empty ring finger. There once was Daniel's casually bought ring on her finger, a very ordinary design, yet worth a downtown apartment. Now she's taken it off, but the indentation lingers stubbornly. She and Daniel will have no beautiful tomorrow. From now on, with every sunrise and sunset, she won't be Daniel's side. Footsteps sounded from behind. The next second, Iris fell into Daniel's slightly cool embrace. The familiar cool scent of pine wood, mingled with the faintest hint of pear blossom, Jessica's favorite fragrance. Why aren't the lights on? He leaned in close to Iris's ear, bending down as if to kiss her cheek. But she subtly avoided him. Iris's aloofness was instantly noticed by Daniel. Jealous, a plain statement. Daniel pulled her into his arms. Don't overthink it. He explained it with an air of nonchalance, still maintaining the noble demeanor of someone in power. She abandoned me back then. Obstacles and cold shoulders. She deserved them all. But she's afraid of water. I couldn't just watch her drown in the pool. His calm tone revealed not the slightest flaw, as if his heart remained unshaken. As if he wasn't the one whose eyes were solely fixed on Jessica in the midst of chaos. Iris remained silent. The man's patience wore thin, and her aloofness made him laugh in frustration. What's with the attitude? Didn't I already tell you? Don't you trust me? He reached from behind to hold Iris's hand, turning her around to face him, but the fingertip touched Iris's smooth fingers. Daniel frowned. Where's the ring? Iris said calmly. Took it off. His eyes darkened. How could you take off our ring? Iris suddenly felt both amused and dazed by his accusatory expression. Did that ring hold any special memories for them? No, it didn't. It was just Daniel asking his secretary to casually buy it to appease her. It was her affection for him that endowed that ring with special meaning. 1 year ago, ever since Daniel regained his sight, she had been waiting for Daniel to fulfill his promise, to propose to her and bring her home as his wife, on a very ordinary day. While helping Daniel hang up his coat, she felt a ring. The packaging box had been rubbed to the point of fading, making it easy to imagine how many times he had secretly toyed with it. She had always thought Daniel was waiting for the right moment, that this ring was meant for her. But it wasn't until Iris, overwhelmed with excitement, couldn't resist trying it on in secret that she realized it wasn't her ring size at all, and that ring was a design from 4 years ago. Daniel, it was at this moment that he remembered the ring and turned back after leaving. Iris' tears fell heavily from the corners of her eyes onto the back of his hand. Daniel, if you can't forget her, you don't have to marry me. Those 2 years I spent with you were willingly given, and you don't owe me anything in return. He held her, carefully wiping away each tear. No, Iris, I will marry you. I'm just reminding myself not to forget the foolishness of misjudging people in the past. I'll buy you a new ring, okay, wait for my proposal, there will be something even better, trust me. Later, there was a mark on her ring finger, but now, she doesn't even want new ones, why keep the old ones then? Jessica's arrival shattered all their plans. It also shattered the original trajectory. That birthday party ended abruptly. It wasn't until Daniel's friend saw Iris with blood streaming down her palm and cried out in alarm that Daniel finally thought of her. I'm sorry, Iris. Let me take you to get bandaged. I'm not celebrating this birthday anymore. My mood was ruined long ago. He grabbed Iris and tried to leave. Jessica pushed away the waiter supporting her and blocked their path. Daniel, do you really hate me? What if I told you there were reasons back then? A deathly silence. Jessica stubbornly met his gaze, her eyes brimming with tears. Meanwhile, Daniel's eyes darkened abruptly, his spine tensing as if turbulent waves surged within his heart. This moment was tragically beautiful in its obsession, making even Iris feel utterly superfluous. A long silence ensued. She heard Daniel let out a derisive chuckle. Who would believe that? He pried open Jessica's hand, and without hesitation, pulled Iris away as they walked off. Only, Iris's wrist was held so tightly by him, so tight that the pain still lingers on her wrist, impossible to forget for a long time. Later, he took Iris home, excusing himself by saying he had company matters to attend to. The car sped away from Jiating Mansion like an arrow released from its bow. One could imagine how urgent he was. Iris knew he hadn't gone to the company but was instead at the apartment where Jessica was temporarily staying. Up until now, Jessica's provocative message is still in her phone. Iris, he actually chased me all the way to my home. Once the misunderstanding is cleared up, your 4 years will mean nothing. I advise you to exit Daniel's world sooner rather than later. A pet will always just be a pet. It was Iris's first time meeting Jessica, and these were the first condescending words she uttered. The Garrison family had always placed great emphasis on their public image. Having been involved in charitable causes for years, Iris was merely one of the many students the Garrison family sponsored. However, her family's past had once caused a media uproar in social news, so Iris's sponsorship became widely publicized. To maximize social impact, Iris was once invited by the Garrison family to attend a charity banquet hosted by the Pei family. Out of caution against media scrutiny, she was brought in early to stay temporarily at the Garrison family villa. It was her first time stepping into such a grand house, where everything stood in stark contrast to her yellowed canvas shoes. Her arrival at the Garrison family villa was poorly timed. There was no one in charge at home. She had been brought to the Garrison family on a whim, so no room had been prepared for her. The butler had no choice but to knock on the door of the piano room. Sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the piano room, golden dust dancing to the melodious notes as the young man looked up from the black and white keys. Iris recognized him at a glance. Back then, amidst the ruins and blood, he had draped his coat over her, covering her eyes. His gentle comfort had been like a ray of light piercing through the darkness of her heart. Now, meeting him again, Iris still found him dazzling. The boy simply gazed at her quietly, his amber eyes clear and calm, as if he had already forgotten her. Daniel remained silent, while Jessica, who was performing with him, let out a disdainful scoff. Jane just went missing, and your stepmother couldn't wait to send in a new pet. She really dotes on you. Her scornful words struck at Iris's self-esteem, leaving her to fidget awkwardly and uncomfortably with her fingers. Instead, Daniel started playing the piano on his own, the soothing melody flowing from his fingertips. Iris heard Daniel's lowered voice. Don't talk nonsense. She's just a guest staying at home temporarily, not like Jane. Later, Iris found out that Jane was Daniel's stray cat, which had just run away recently. She had always looked down on Iris, even though Iris was merely one of those sponsored by the Garrison family, a tool to boost the Garrison family's reputation, just a transient guest who stayed at the Garrison household for barely 2 months. But that didn't stop Jessica, as Daniel's childhood friend, from harboring malice towards someone whose family background was far beneath hers. She acted superior, privately hurling insults at Iris, and on the eve of Iris's attendance at a charity gala, she even crushed her finger bones under a piano lid, using Daniel's piano skills to show off. Are you even worthy? By the way, Jessica mischievously blinked. The piano lid fell on its own. It had nothing to do with me. Don't you agree? That day, Iris lay in the hospital reeking of disinfectant, facing the disappointed sighs of the Garrison family. Yet she never revealed the truth. No one would believe her. She and Jessica are worlds apart. The Francis family would protect Jessica, while the Garrison family wouldn't stand up for her either. And the boy she saw as her salvation also loved her deeply. But now, times have changed, and their roles have long since reversed. But Jessica had long engraved her contempt and disdain for her into her bones, even Daniel, the one who lived in her heart. Still wasn't her. Iris let out a sigh. Outside the window, thunder suddenly roared, and a dazzling bolt of lightning flashed across the floor-to-ceiling glass, completely pulling Iris out of her memories. Then came the sound of heavy rain. Daniel turned on the living room light. The sudden brightness made Iris unable to open her eyes, but the next second, her hand was Daniel's grasp, the cold sensation sliding from her fingertips over her knuckles, firmly settling onto her ring finger. Iris widened her eyes in disbelief, her almond-shaped eyes suddenly misting over, even her long lashes trembling. Daniel gently stroked her hand. The old one is gone, but the new one must stay with you always. As he spoke, he cupped Iris's face in his hands, pressing a butterfly-like kiss to her forehead. Sorry, the proposal plan got disrupted. I don't know if this counts, but I think you'll accept it, right? Iris felt her heart in turmoil, as all her grievances surged up in an instant. With so many questions she wanted to ask him, but while the words were still being weighed in her heart, the doorbell rang. Iris seized the excuse to go open the door, yet in the pouring rain, she saw the drenched Jessica. The downpour blurred her vision with mist, but she didn't look at Iris. Instead, her gaze pierced through the dense curtain of rain, landing not far behind Iris. With a desolate voice, she asked, Daniel, have you really abandoned me? The room fell into complete silence. Only the sound of heavy rain hitting the ground could be heard, and the old-fashioned clock in the room began to chime again with its dong-dong rhythm. Iris instinctively turned her head and immediately saw Daniel clenching his fists, frozen in place. His eyes darkened, yet his gaze never left Jessica for even a second. The suffocating feeling cut into her heart like a blunt knife. Iris watched everything with an expressionless face, until mockery rippled in Daniel's eyes. His smile devoid of warmth. Jessica, look in the mirror. Your current wretched state is far from the carefree way you disappeared without a trace when you went abroad years ago. What makes you think I would forgive and help a woman who abandoned me in my lowest moment? The resentful words carried a hint of gritted teeth, yet not a trace of hatred could be heard. Her voice choked with emotion. I had my reasons back then. Daniel loosened his tie uneasily. Miss Jessica, your explanation comes too late. The two exchanged words back and forth, with undercurrents of tension, playing out a scene straight from a melodramatic soap opera. Only Iris stood downwind, the slanting raindrops splashing against the hem of her nightgown. Yet none chilled her as much as the coldness in her heart. How about, she sighed, forcing back the moisture in her eyes, come in first. After all, standing at the doorway was making her feel rather cold, not needed. Daniel spoke again in his steady, composed voice. He strode forward, unyieldingly pulling Iris into his embrace. Miss Jessica, if you had any dignity at all, you wouldn't be standing at the doorstep of my home with my fiancé. I can't be bothered with your affairs. Not personally pressuring your life or kicking you when you're down is the last shred of my courtesy. His words, devoid of any warmth, cut deeper than the biting wind. Jessica's face instantly turned pale. All her unwillingness and stubbornness shattered in her eyes as she smiled with relief. Daniel, thank you for teaching me the final lesson. I will let you go completely. Then she turned and walked into the pouring rain. Snap, the door closed. Iris's shoulder blade ached from Daniel's tight grip, yet he deliberately feigned nonchalance. No one will disturb us now, but Iris knew Daniel too well, so she immediately saw through Daniel's forced composure, just like a stubborn child. Making her a pawn in their game of spite. Perhaps even Daniel went all the way by slipping the ring onto her finger. It was also a way to force himself not to look back. This suspicion was soon confirmed. Daniel's gaze never left the floor-to-ceiling window for a moment, so he clearly saw Jessica fall in the heavy rain. He abruptly pushed aside Iris and rushed out without even bothering to open an umbrella. In a choice between two, he once again ran toward Jessica without hesitation. Yet it was she who ended up completely drenched, soaked to the skin, yet Iris felt as though she were the one standing in the downpour. Before long, Daniel carried Jessica into the house. Meeting Iris's gaze head-on, his steps faltered slightly, his voice unconsciously lowered, tinged with barely detectable guilt. Iris, I just didn't want her fainting on our doorstep. Adding unnecessary, I know. Iris spoke softly, interrupting him. I'll call the family doctor for her. She can stay in the side room upstairs for the night. After all, We've known each other for so many years, I can't just stand by and watch her die. She even prepared an excuse for Daniel, yet Daniel felt an uncontrollable discomfort rising in his heart, always sensing that Iris was somewhat off. He stared intently at Iris, trying to detect any hint of a flaw on her face. Anger, jealousy, grievance, none were there. She was just as understanding, gentle, and generous as always, smiling softly with concern. Just as she had comforted him countless times over the past 4 years, Jessica, she got caught in the rain and might very well develop a fever. Daniel let out a sigh of relief. His Adam's apple bobbed slightly. I'll take her upstairs first. But after only a few steps, Daniel still turned back uncertainly. Iris, I really don't love her anymore. This is purely out of humanitarian concern. You're the only one in my heart. Don't overthink it. Iris didn't respond, only offering a faint smile and a nod. She questioned in her heart, Daniel, can you really deceive yourself with these words? Meanwhile, Daniel held Jessica, who was struggling restlessly, in his arms, crying uncontrollably. Daniel, I don't want you to interfere. Let me go. I'll never give you another chance to humiliate me. His emotions instantly spiraled out of control. Humiliate you? Jessica, you brought this upon yourself. Iris felt somewhat dazed, since Daniel regained his sight. Iris has only seen him lose control of his emotions twice. The first time was at a villa party, his birthday celebration. The second time was during this torrential rainstorm, and both times, it was because of Jessica. They went upstairs, the sound of their argument never ceasing. Upstairs, it was their love and hate intertwined. Downstairs, Iris calmly began to pack her things. She had accompanied Daniel for 4 whole years, but after deciding to leave, Iris realized there wasn't much here worth taking with her. Daniel, the expensive gifts bought perfunctorily, the latest seasonal items regularly delivered by the secretary, and even Iris taking the initiative to take group photos. She didn't want to take any of them with her. Only one coat remained. A gift from a 17-year-old boy, who was also the light in her heart. Iris, her father was addicted to gambling, and her mother only knew how to endure passively, taking out her frustrations on her. On that rainy day, Iris's father accidentally killed her mother in a drunken rage. Blood splattered across the entire wall. She trembled all over, thinking she would also die under Iris's father's wine vat, and that was when the police entered, of course. There were also the charitable members of the Garrison family. She looked up from the crimson ruins and met a pair of strikingly beautiful eyes. Her body trembled physiologically, making her unable to utter a complete sentence. Only tears fell onto Li Mu's already stiff body. A hand with distinct knuckles suddenly reached out to her. It belonged to the owner of those eyes. He draped his coat over Iris, the pleasant scent of soap filling her nostrils. She heard a gentle voice whisper in her ear, carrying the crisp freshness unique to a young man, it's all in the past, all the gloom will pass. His words of encouragement warmed Iris for many years. That coat, she wanted to take it with her, but it was placed in the storage room next to the master bedroom upstairs. Iris had no choice but to go upstairs. As she passed by the side room, separated by just a door, she heard an argument inside. Jessica, you're really short on money, aren't you? Instead of begging others, why not come to me? Take off one piece of clothing. How about 100,000? Just from the sound of his voice, he could imagine Daniel's aloof and arrogantly indifferent demeanor. Iris's steps froze instantly, bitterness surging through her chest. In that moment, all her blood rushed to her head, not from anger, but from sheer disgust. An inexplicable nausea overwhelmed her. She heard Jessica's voice tremble with disbelief. Daniel, what do you mean, being kept? Didn't you want to come back to me? He sneered with duplicity. This is the only way. Then, Jessica went mad, smashing something in the room, the sharp, clattering sound of shattering glass piercing the air. Daniel, I won't be the other woman. Must you humiliate me like this? If Iris finds out, where will that leave me? I've suffered enough punishment. If you won't turn back, then let me go. Her tearful accusation was abruptly cut off by Daniel's icy retort. To this day, do you still think you can compare to Iris's place in my heart? Since you're willing to degrade yourself for the Francis family, I'm your best choice, but I'll only give you this chance once. As for Iris, Daniel paused, exuding condescending confidence. She won't know, but Iris already knew. For a fleeting moment, she desperately wanted to push the door open and kindly remind him. Wasn't it too troublesome to keep hiding it from her like this? She would make space for them and simply leave. Inside, Jessica's sobs came intermittently. One, driven by love turned hatred, sought to take by force. The other, feigning weakness, played along with the seduction. They make quite a good match. Even this rain seems like heaven's blessing. Iris turned and went downstairs. No more rings, no more coats, Daniel. She no longer wants either, yet her steps faltered, and upon closer inspection, Iris's fingertips trembled, even though she had long seen through this relationship and made the decision to leave. Hearing it aloud still brought her to tears. How pathetic. If love were set aside, she might have thanked Daniel for a lifetime. She thought she saw things clearly, yet uncontrollably. She carried resentment. Iris just wanted to accompany him out of the darkness, just as Daniel had once illuminated her. But why did he have to give her promises of love? Liar. Fortunately, all of this is finally coming to an end. The next day, the rain cleared and the sun emerged. Iris arrived early at the counseling office and submitted her resignation. The resignation process would only take a week. These would be her final 7 days in City J. From then on, the road ahead was long and the mountains high. She had nothing more to do with this place. In the changing room, she had just put on her white coat when she received Daniel's call. Iris, where have you been? Iris replied calmly while locking the cabinet door. The consultation room, on the phone. The other end seemed to let out a sigh of relief, but Daniel still sounded puzzled. Doesn't the clinic start at 9? Why so early today? Her tone remained calm. I have a patient scheduled. That's good. I thought you might be overthinking it. I've already sent Jessica away. If it bothers you, I'll have the maid thoroughly clean the side room. Iris, let's get married on a warm day. Get married. Hearing it from Daniel is quite something. She had hinted so many times in the past. Yet he remained unmoved, maintaining an ambiguous rhythm of closeness and distance. But now, after his intense entanglement and tug-of-war with Jessica, he suddenly says he wants to marry her. Whether it's Daniel's guilt at play or he genuinely wants to recreate the golden house for a hidden beauty. Iris no longer cares about any of it. She responded vaguely, there hasn't been good weather lately. There will never be again. Daniel didn't notice anything unusual and said thoughtfully, then let's wait a little longer. Until I return from my business trip, a week from now. Ever since Daniel regained his sight, Iris had been waiting for these words. Now she has finally gotten her wish, and their relationship is completely over. Daniel, no one will wait for you in the same place forever. Countdown Day 7. Daniel went on a business trip. Before leaving, he arranged for Jessica to stay at Fongue Villa under the pretense of confinement. It was a place they often stayed before their breakup, still preserved exactly as it was. Countdown Day 6. Iris burned the photos of her and Daniel, which were pitifully few, mostly taken by her secretly. The only exception was when she went on a business trip to Super with Daniel. At the foot of the Wishing Tower, Daniel fiddled with his phone. But her eyes were only on him. She developed 2 copies of that photo, but the other one was nowhere to be found. Countdown Day 5. Iris found a suitable house in City L, 2 bedrooms and a living room, just 3 kilometers from the rehabilitation center. Day 1 of the countdown, Iris completed the handover and saw her last patient. The door of the consultation room was pushed open. Iris locked eyes with Jessica's bold and radiant face, finally no longer appearing tearful and fragile. Jessica sat in the chair opposite her like a proud peacock. Dr. Lee, long time no see, she said with a sarcastic tone. The bed at your place is really nothing special. Moonlit Villa is much more comfortable to stay in. Iris lowered her eyes, ignoring the provocative look on the other's face, and spoke in a businesslike manner. What's been happening lately? Any symptoms you're experiencing? She smiled smugly. Actually, it's quite simple. My former lover is about to become a married man. But we still love each other. Dr. Lee, what do you think about this situation? But the one who isn't loved is the real outsider, don't you think? Jessica said boastfully, leisurely watching the Iris across from her. She so eagerly anticipated Iris to be angry, trembling, and questioning her repeatedly. The more so, the more it would highlight Iris's disarray. However, she saw nothing of the sort. Iris didn't even spare her half a glance, but pointed out the window. Go out 300 meters and turn right. Jessica was puzzled. What do you mean? You shouldn't be seeing a psychologist. You should be going to the psychiatry department. She slammed the table and stood up abruptly in anger, yet in the next second, she caught sight of the ring on her own finger. The fury instantly dissipated. Jessica gracefully sat back down, regaining her composure, and smugly waved her hand at Iris. It was the very same ring Iris had tried on, which had been completely ill-fitting for her finger size, so Daniel was never lost. The ring finally returned to its true owner after 4 years. Jessica whispered with a fragrant breath, Miss Iris, he can't hold back any longer. You lost this game much faster than I expected. Just a ring was enough to make Jessica pop the champagne at halftime. Savoring the taste of victory prematurely, eager to declare her sovereignty, Iris smiled, relieved as she took off the ring from her own hand. She had originally planned to find an opportunity to return it to Daniel, but now it seemed unnecessary. She raised her eyes, her cool expression devoid of any emotion. There's nothing to boast about with just a ring. Take this one too. If a man's love must be won through women's deceitful games, it would be far too cheap. Jessica likes it, she doesn't like it. Iris pushed the ring toward Jessica and suddenly smiled brightly. You and Daniel, get the hell out of my world. Iris boarded a flight to City L that very night. Amidst the cacophony of farewells and reunions around her, she simply sat at the boarding area, calmly blocking all of Daniel's contact methods, before blocking him on WeChat. The last message was from Daniel. I'll be back tomorrow, but don't wait for me to have dinner. Won't wait anymore. From then on, that home would never again have dinners reheated repeatedly only to be thrown away. Nor would there be Iris's constant anxiety and humble expectations. After deleting everything about Daniel, Iris only realized it belatedly. What once kept her awake at night, crying till dawn, even suffocating with fear of sleeping in the dark, turned out to be nothing but lines of code. Before Jessica returned home, she was constantly emotionally drained in this relationship. After Jessica returned home, the long-awaited verdict finally sentenced her to emotional death. Once countless voices buzzed in my ears, now deleted, and complete silence has been restored. At the broadcasting station, a gentle reminder chime sounded, urging passengers to board the plane. This was a complete and final farewell between her and Daniel. She put on sunglasses and pushed her suitcase, the wind lifting her clothes. Iris strode forward in high heels, never looking back. 2 hours later, the plane landed with a roar. As a newcomer, not only did she need to gradually adjust her lifestyle habits, but even her phone's big data couldn't fully adapt. The moment she connected to the internet, too many messages popped up. There was Dean David checking if she had landed safely. There were also City J gossip news pushed from the webpage, and the protagonist was no stranger to her. It was Daniel and Jessica. The news report was vivid and detailed, complete with pictures and text. Iris could tell what was happening at a glance. Jessica attended the drinking party to win over business. At a table full of pot-bellied, balding men, she was deliberately plied with alcohol and threatened with malicious intent. A flower fallen into the mud. Everyone wants to pluck it, somehow. News of her attending the social event reached Daniel's ears. The man who should have been on his way back used every means to land on the rooftop and pushed open the private room door at the fastest speed. Daniel's fists rained down like a storm on the man, his face dark with fury as he crushed his wrist underfoot, his spotless leather shoe pressed down mercilessly. This is the hand that touched her, right, back when Iris was being harassed, he casually said. Sorry you had to go through that. Like a completely different person, blinded by rage for his beloved, the former couple's tangled love and hate captured the attention of many young women, instantly topping City J's headlines. Iris suddenly noticed more messages on her phone, coming from a group chat. There was no group name, but the people in it were all City J's prominent figures. Iris joined this group by chance. Daniel had just regained his sight at the time, and his eyes hadn't fully adjusted yet. The doctor limited his screen time to quickly reconnect with the outside world. Iris became Daniel's voice. For convenience, he added Iris to this group chat full of second-generation heirs and successors. Iris never spoke once, and over time, they forgot Iris's existence. The bright red 99 Plus was truly eye-catching, and the latest notification that popped up was still about her. The message was sent by Daniel's brother Henry, who was also one of the few people Daniel had during his blindness that didn't kick him when he was down. Daniel. We managed to suppress this video from being released by the media, but rumors can't be contained forever. Iris will find out eventually. Iris clicked in. It was at the hotel's winding corridor. They tugged at each other in the cold wind. Jessica was Daniel tightly held in his arms as she struggled and wept. Daniel, if this is revenge for me leaving you back then, it should be enough by now. It will never be enough. He lost control and pressed Jessica against his lips. Don't you like money? If you stay with me, the Francis family's affairs will be my responsibility. Is 100,000, 500,000, or $1 million enough? Iris exited the video, uninterested in their price-haggling conversation. Her moist fingertips trembled imperceptibly, but fortunately, she had long stopped caring. the conversation in the group continues. Daniel, didn't you say you were going to marry your girlfriend? What if she sees this and gets upset? She won't. Amidst the clamor, Daniel finally appeared, with his usual confidence. 1 is a pet, 2 are also pets. Iris is very sensible and won't make unreasonable demands. Iris is very sensible. This wasn't the first time she'd heard this evaluation from Daniel. Last New Year's Day, Iris celebrated the new year for the first time with Daniel and his circle of friends, in the dimly lit private room, with various premium red wines and imported liquors covering the table. After just a few rounds of dice, Iris had already downed 3 glasses of strong liquor. Luck is not on my side. Daniel lazily pulled her close with a cigarette dangling from his lips, the smoke curling around his brows and eyes, revealing a touch of lingering tenderness. What's going on? Picking on my wife now? He stopped Iris from raising her glass, instead guiding her wrist to his lips. If you drink too much and bother me again, I'll drink it for you. The onlookers burst into laughter and teased. Family members drinking on behalf get double the penalty. The alcohol's effect hit much faster than expected, the flickering lights reflecting her flushed face on the glass. Daniel draped his suit jacket over Iris and chuckled deeply. Rest for a while. I'll get justice for you. How exquisitely attentive. The smell of smoke and alcohol was stifling, the liquor burning in her stomach. Iris slept restlessly. Half asleep, she heard someone ask Daniel, "It's been 3 years already. And you still haven't married her. Doesn't she give you any trouble?" Daniel replied nonchalantly, "What trouble? Iris knows her place better than anyone." He had always been confident she would never leave. Memories keep rewinding. Iris picks apart every frame from the past, yet finds no trace Daniel ever loved her deeply. So why exactly did she throw herself into the flame for 4 years? At first, she just wanted to lift Daniel up. Unwilling to let his heart sink into eternal darkness like his eyes, she treaded carefully, never overstepping. But on that damp rainy night, the one who took the initiative to kiss was Daniel. The one who tearfully promised to marry her was also Daniel. When did it become a favor he bestowed upon Iris, her purest, most genuine emotions, her heartfelt admiration? It turns out he was never worthy of them from the start. 1 is just as easy to raise as 2. This was Iris's biggest joke in her life. She decisively cleared the group chat messages and exited the group. Anyway, it had nothing to do with her anymore. Meanwhile, at Fongua Villa, Daniel didn't check his phone again after sending the message, instead turning sideways to gaze down at Jessica on the bed. Jessica had drunk quite a bit and was now fast asleep. When he heard the rumors about the Francis family's internal funding chain issues, Daniel knew that the Francis family wouldn't escape unscathed this time, so he waited. Waited for Jessica to come back and beg him. He hated her, especially in his life of darkness. He loathed her for her ruthless abandonment, so at this moment, being able to become Jessica's savior, Daniel was thoroughly enjoying it. The feeling of being held in high regard and being fawned over by her, even if he knew her flattery was calculated. But so what? Iris wouldn't care, and neither would he. Thinking of Iris, Daniel's breath hitched for a moment. He crashed a drinking party to take Jessica away, causing a huge scandal in City J. He refused to believe Iris hadn't heard about it, yet his phone remained silent, not a single inquiry from Iris. Right after regaining his sight, his desire to return to the top was so intense that Daniel frequently made headlines with various socialites. Feigned affection and play acting, all have been met with Iris's cautious probing. Never before has silence lingered this long. Could she actually be angry? But she's always been easy to appease. He bought back luxury items to amuse Jessica, and any one of them given to Iris would make her very happy. She has always been someone who takes the opportunity to step down when given a way out. Daniel felt an inexplicable pang of guilt in his heart. He searched for Iris's WeChat profile picture, clicked in, and casually sent a message. She had nothing left and couldn't afford to lose her chastity, a reasonable statement, serving as an explanation to Iris. But the next second, Daniel's pupils trembled in shock. What jumped out from the screen was the red exclamation mark behind the message, so glaring, Iris blocked him. Meanwhile, he saw messages continuously popping up in the brothers' group chat. Why is there one less person in the group? So, who left the group? Don't want to hang with Daniel anymore. Henry even started a cons grand roll call in a group of just over a dozen people, but after checking back and forth, no one seemed to be missing. Certain memories seemed to break free from their cages, gradually surfacing in his mind. Daniel could barely hold on to his phone. The man who had always been in control now felt a suffocating sensation akin to cardiac arrest. Because he already knew who had left the group chat, it was Iris, so she got angry after seeing the message in the group. Daniel could no longer sit still and abruptly stood up, but the hem of his clothes was grabbed by Jessica. She had woken up at some point and was staring at him blankly. "Daniel, can you please not go find Iris? I have nothing left, I only have you. Can you stay with me tonight?" As she spoke, Jessica slipped off her silk outerwear, revealing the camisole underneath, and wrapped her arms around Daniel's neck. Daniel abruptly pushed her away, no longer in the mood to play along with Jessica's act, mercilessly exposing her pretense. "Jessica, you're hardly as pitiful as you're pretending to be. Enough is enough." He exhaled a puff of frustration. "Don't get addicted to acting." But Jessica was unwilling to give up. She simply stood up and wrapped her arms around Daniel's waist, pressing her body tightly against his, pleading pitifully, "Daniel, don't go looking for her, you don't love her. Just let her go. Can we start over? I don't want to be your mistress anymore, I want to marry you." Daniel shoved the person away, gripping Jessica's chin, laughing in anger. "Who said I don't love her? She pulled me out of the mud, should I love you instead? Who fled far away, afraid I'd cling to you?" Jessica turned deathly pale in an instant. "I really had no choice, they forced me." "I didn't." Daniel pried her hands off one by one, sneering coldly. "Jessica, you're only fooling yourself with these words. Daniel, if you don't love me, why do you still care about me?" Her plaintive counter-question left Daniel rooted to the spot. The man seemed frozen in place, unable to speak for a long while. Indeed, if he doesn't love her, why does he keep neglecting Iris because of her? Is it because youthful affection is truly powerful? No, he's just unwilling to accept it, unwilling to be abandoned, so wanting to regain face in this relationship. He reveled in his superior attitude of looking down on Jessica, as if only her desperate efforts to please and seduce him could make him forget the misery of those 2 years. He didn't love her at all anymore. This realization struck Daniel like a bolt of clarity. He suddenly felt how foolish his actions had been. For the sake of so-called pride, he had repeatedly entangled with Jessica and even hurt Iris. She blocked herself, and then, what is she going to do next? A sense of panic surged up. Daniel didn't want to waste any more time with Jessica, so he pushed her away. Jessica appeared unsteady on her feet, so weak that she fell backward. Her acting was pitifully bad, and the supposedly enlightened Daniel didn't even glance her way this time. But just as Jessica collapsed near the bedside table, the sudden impact caused the cabinet to wobble before finally toppling over. The contents of the drawer scattered noisily across the floor. There were unused contraceptives, Jessica's forged medical records, and various other miscellaneous items. Daniel had no time to take stock, but a ring that looked all too familiar to him happened to roll right to his feet. He bent down with trembling hands to pick it up. This was the ring he had personally placed on Iris's finger just over a week ago. "How could you be here?" When he looked up at Jessica again, his eyes revealed a fierce expression. "You dared to provoke Iris behind my back." "No, I didn't." Jessica still tried to argue stubbornly. "She came to warn me to stay away from you. I didn't seek her out." But this time her tears didn't earn her Daniel's the slightest wavering. Amidst her sobs, Jessica only heard Daniel's chilling voice echoing in every corner of the room. "If there's even a single crack in my relationship with Iris, I swear I'll make sure the Francis family never gets back on its feet." With that, he stormed out with the ring, leaving only Jessica sitting dazed on the floor. A chilling tremor coursing through her entire body, his bloodshot, nearly deranged expression made it seem as if Jessica were to admit it, Daniel would truly strangle her. Daniel had gone mad. Along the way, Daniel drove the car at breakneck speed. He floored the accelerator, ignoring all red lights, the roar piercing the silent late night. Daniel, his hands trembling on the steering wheel. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, he arrived home and rushed into the villa. The villa was pitch black. No more brightly lit rooms, no more signs of life, and no one would ever fall asleep on the couch waiting for him again. Daniel turned on the light with a sigh, yet it wasn't as empty as he had imagined, just eerily quiet. Could it be Iris hadn't left? Was she just using this way to show she was angry and needed him to coax her back? This conjecture lightened Daniel's burdened heart a little. He quickly went upstairs and pushed open Iris's door. The dressing room was filled with Iris's clothes. He stepped out of the room again, and as far as he could see, the furnishings at home had hardly changed. Daniel completely relaxed, laughing at himself for panicking over nothing. Iris would never leave him. Over these 4 years, they relied on each other. With her accompanying him as he regained the Garrison family's power, she witnessed his most vulnerable moments and also the process of his rise to glory. They had long become inseparable parts of each other's lives. Moreover, Iris was an orphan. Where could she go if she left him? But soon, Daniel's smile froze on his face. He noticed that on the bathroom counter, Iris's face towel was missing. The air in the house instantly grew heavy, and he began to scrutinize those previously unnoticed details. There was no Iris cartoon cat-printed water cup on the table, and the fluffy slippers by the door had also vanished without a trace. Even the flowers in the vase have withered, their fallen petals devoid of life. The feeling of being hit on the head left Daniel with a ringing in his brain. It turns out she wasn't reluctant to leave, she simply didn't care to have it. The night is too long, so long that his thoughts grew sluggish, past moments flashing through his mind like slides in a slideshow. Suddenly, he remembered that phone call, when he told Iris to pick a sunny day to get married. Her despondent voice came through the phone. There won't be any more sunny days. Only today did he finally see the light. The sky would clear and warm again, but they would have no future together. Time kept pushing forward relentlessly. Back to the very beginning, Daniel was sent by the Garrison family to a dilapidated old house. Everyone avoided him like the plague, except for one Ivy League-educated counselor who stayed by his side, choking back sobs as she begged him not to give up. Every time he stubbornly refused to use the cane and stumbled in the old house, he fell again and again. Iris helped him up each time, encouraging him with a positive tone. Daniel, you're doing amazing, unlocking another new spot, getting closer to moving around the house without barriers. But the moment she turned away, she began to sob quietly. After losing his sight, Daniel's hearing became exceptionally sensitive. He heard Iris muttering to herself with a hint of tears in her voice, "Dear God, why must you be so cruel to Daniel? He's such a good person. Please show mercy. There will be a miracle, won't there?" After going blind, his emotions became volatile and irritable, the endless darkness making him increasingly unpredictable. In fact, he had startled her many times. He could feel Iris's trembling as she supported him. He could also sense the warm tears that inadvertently fell onto the back of his hand. He began uncontrollably picturing Iris's appearance in his mind. So on that rainy night, when the old house lost power, Iris accidentally fell into his arms. Daniel instinctively kissed her. He saw Iris as the only beam of light in his pitch-black life, and his promise to marry her back then was sincere and heartfelt. But Daniel punched the mirror, shattering it and distorting his reflection. With only his bloodshot eyes showing Daniel the depth of his regret, blood dripped from the back of his hand, with shards of glass deeply embedded, igniting waves of pain. Yet this pain paled in comparison to what he felt in his heart. He thought of the time after regaining his sight, Iris's every calm gaze that concealed hidden sorrow. He had noticed it all along. How could I have not noticed, if only just once? Daniel relied on Iris's deep affection for him, relied on her not making a fuss. So he acted recklessly time and again. He squandered Iris's sincerity. Daniel completely lost his strength and slumped to the ground in exhaustion. He sat listlessly until dawn. Daniel stayed awake until his eyes turned bloodshot. The clock on the wall chimed again. The sunlight is so lovely. It shines so brightly that Daniel can't keep his eyes open. Now his sun has risen, but the one who used to count the ticking of the clock with him is no longer here. Genuine hearts during bad time are rare and precious, yet he trampled them all underfoot without a second thought. He could only murmur weakly to the empty house, "Iris, please come back." Unlike Daniel's despondency, Iris in the distant City L began her new life. City L is not like City J, where it's spring all year round. Iris had just arrived in City L when she encountered the first snowfall, a vast expanse of white. Iris felt her entire spiritual world being reshaped. She did not let down Dean David, and within just a month, she became the most beloved sisterly among the children and parents at the rehabilitation center. Their minds are not like those of their peers, their behaviors are rigid, their world lonely and dull. Yet they radiate their own warmth. When she first arrived, the unfamiliar environment and the pain of withdrawal were all Iris enduring on her own. She always manages to lose herself in fleeting moments amidst the busyness. Bitter memories surface, like countless silver needles, pricking densely at her heart. Tears always fall unexpectedly in quiet moments, but there are small hands to catch her scalding tears, and someone to offer their beloved candies. Their purity and sincerity make Iris feel the beauty of life. Iris's heart was gradually healing. She fully embraced and accepted her new life here. Only occasionally could she still learn about Daniel from the Weibo posts of a few wealthy heiresses she had followed long ago. It was said that at a social gathering, someone frivolously comforted Daniel, "Just some women, they're like clothes, I've got plenty here. Would Mr. Pay like to pick a couple to take with him?" With just one sentence, Daniel erupted like an enraged lion. "Who gave you the right to insult my fiancé like that?" he lashed out in front of the nouveau riche crowd, ignoring all attempts to stop him as he sent the man to the hospital. It was also said that Daniel once saw a woman on the street whose figure bore an uncanny resemblance to Iris, so he chased her down in his car, grabbed her without a word, and kissed her. Later, he was beaten up by the woman and her boyfriend, who also reported him to the police, landing him in jail for a few days. I also heard that Daniel was driving with a friend when someone casually mentioned Iris's name, causing him to lose focus. The car swerved, and in the end, both were hospitalized, recovering for several months. To this day, he still suffers from lingering leg injuries. They all say Daniel has gone mad, head over heels in love. But Iris felt somewhat dazed, finding this conclusion ridiculously amusing. When she was around, Daniel always dismissed it casually. Only after she left did he start showing deep, unwavering affection. What a jerk. The train of thought was interrupted by a knock on the door. Iris looked up and saw the little boy standing at the intersection of light and shadow. It was Jerry, in the rehabilitation center, the little boy who liked Iris the most. Jerry has an extraordinary IQ and looks no different from any normal child, but possesses an even more stubborn temperament. He is always immersed in his own little world, with a heart that's extremely hard to open, and finds it difficult to trust others. In fits of anger, he once destroyed all the plum blossoms in the yard and smashed every child's water cup, leaving no one daring to approach him. He resists contact with everyone, except Iris, who, in just 1 month, became the only person Jerry would accept. "What's wrong, Jerry?" Iris left Daniel behind, then stepped forward and crouched down, bringing her gaze level with Jerry. Jerry said nothing, simply handing a jade bracelet to Iris with both hands. "Here." The bracelet refracted a translucent green hue under the sunlight, clearly of considerable value. Iris was taken aback for a moment. The bracelet looked somewhat familiar. A few years ago when she graduated from university, a senior had once wanted to give her an almost identical one. Iris had firmly refused. Jerry kept shaking his head, then as if remembering something, steadied himself and smiled at Iris, his dimples faint, his childish voice slow and clear. "Make friends." Yesterday Iris spent the entire afternoon patiently guiding him. "Jerry, giving someone a gift we personally like is also a way for us to express kindness. So, this means he considers Iris his first friend." But Iris stared at that expensive bracelet. "It's a bit tricky. Jerry is still young and lacks the concept of ownership, let alone the ability to judge the value of an item. But this bracelet is clearly a family heirloom, and she can't accept it. However, if Iris refuses, it could easily shatter Jerry's hard-earned understanding of friendship." Hesitating, Jerry had already slipped the bracelet onto her wrist. Iris was about to speak when her phone rang the next second. Jerry seemed captivated by something outside the window. After a quick hug, he turned and dashed out. Iris glanced at her phone, and the name in the WeChat dialog box made her pause. Henry. Although she had been with Daniel for 4 years, Iris never truly integrated into his circle. Whether it was his close business associates or the usual followers around him, Iris knew very little about them. The only person she had some contact with was Daniel's closest friend, who didn't abandon him in tough times, Henry. But Iris had long forgotten why she added him in the first place. "Iris, you and Daniel won't just break up so easily, right? Maybe you should meet up and clear the air if there's any misunderstanding. He's been having a really hard time lately. Calm down and stop punishing him." Punishment. These 2 words made Iris feel puzzled. She touched her own heart, clearly feeling not the slightest bit of satisfaction from revenge. A month later, hearing about Daniel's current situation from his friend again, not a single ripple stirred in her heart, so she had truly let go, an unexpected sense of relief. So Iris quickly typed back, "Don't bother me anymore." Henry wanted to say more, but after deliberating for a long time and typing out a message, he received a red exclamation mark. She was determined to cut off all contact with this side, and Daniel could guess the outcome from his complicated expression. The spark of joy in the man's eyes extinguished once more as he weakly clutched his head, groaning in agony. "She doesn't want me anymore." At first Daniel still clung to a sliver of hope. Although Iris was gone, he always felt she would return, that he would surely find her. He began asking around, interrogating Jessica, even causing a scene at the psychological counseling center where Iris had once worked, calling her from different people's phone numbers. But he found no trace of Iris anywhere. She seemed to have vanished into thin air, with no one able to find her. Daniel was completely thrown off balance. Every day without Iris felt like an eternity to him. At first, he could still maintain a composed facade outwardly. The longer time passed, the emptier he felt inside. Gradually, Daniel couldn't even pretend anymore. Overwhelmed by immense frustration, he seemed to revert to the irritable and short-tempered Daniel from the old mansion. Even Henry, who was abroad, returned home from thousands of miles away upon hearing the news. Recalling the scene from when he first entered, Henry let out a sigh. He thought he would never see that kind of Daniel again. Yet in just a month, Daniel had become gaunt, with stubble covering his chin, dark circles under his eyes, disheveled hair, and his suit wrinkled all over. The room reeked of alcohol, with empty bottles scattered across the floor. But Henry couldn't understand. Iris, such a gentle soul who would tolerate all kinds of unfairness. Everyone knew Iris loved Daniel more than herself. So how could she vanish so decisively, leaving not a single trace behind? Henry still tried to comfort Daniel. Sis-in-law has always been easy to appease. Maybe after some time, she'll come around and return. Pull yourself together first, so sis-in-law won't have to worry about you. I've hired a private detective. If we put in a little more effort, we'll definitely find it. A few simple words, yet they struck Daniel like a bolt of lightning. Indeed, all these years, taking advantage of Iris's easygoing nature, he had trampled on her sincerity countless times. It was precisely because Daniel knew Iris's forbearance that he understood her resolve all the more. However, Henry was right. He needed to pull himself together. He couldn't just stand by and let Iris disappear from his life. He would search the entire city to find Iris. If she's not in Jiangqing, Daniel. Iris trembled as he stood up, his voice hoarse beyond recognition. Find her now, hire a private detective. Dean David's grandson is a child of the stars. Therefore, Dean David resigned from his hospital job and specifically founded this rehabilitation center for children with autism. This rehabilitation center is not only well known in City L, but even when television stations film related public service documentaries, they think of this place first. At that time, this documentary will be screened on various platforms and large screens in major shopping malls, calling for society to pay attention to the autism community. So not only the production team, but even the rehabilitation center places particular importance on it. Iris was personally appointed by Dean David as the face and brains of the team, shouldering the responsibility for many interviews. The list of interview questions alone filled 2 A4 pages. Iris had to find time amidst her busy schedule to prepare her answers in advance. Just as she was racking her brains, the dorm supervisor Kay suddenly called out to her, "Miss Iris, Jerry's parents want to speak with you." Iris quickly put down her pen and hurried out. Kay winked at her with a starstruck expression. "Oh my God. I could tell from the car that drops off Jerry every day that this kid comes from an impressive family, but I never expected his dad to be this handsome. It's a shame Jerry has autism, but I really envy you, Iris, getting to chat face to face with such a handsome guy." Iris smiled helplessly and said, "He came to ask about Jerry's recent situation, not to date me." Kay always loved reading domineering CEO novels, so she constantly maintained a mindset of romance knocking at her door. "You never know." Iris walked to the entrance and immediately spotted the figure not far away. The man had his back to Iris, standing casually under a tree while on the phone. His tall, well-built frame and broad shoulders accentuated his outfit, making his presence exceptionally striking. As she approached, the man had just ended the call. Before he could turn around, Iris initiated the conversation. "Hello, I'm Jerry's psychological counselor, Iris." She clearly felt the person in front of her stiffen. The next second, the other person turned around. Iris met a pair of familiar eyes. Her heart stirred, never expecting that after coming alone to City L, she would encounter an old acquaintance here. She still seemed somewhat disbelieving. Even her tone of greeting became hesitant. Senior." Leonard simply lowered his gaze and quietly looked at her. After a long while, his Adam's apple moved slightly. His voice was gentle and low. "Iris. Long time no see." It had been quite a while. He was the favorite student of his mentor's wife, and also a renowned academic prodigy and handsome genius in the field of finance, even famous throughout the school. Iris initially had contact with Leonard purely because her mentor and his wife were excellent cooks who loved to invite them over for meals. Before graduation, the mentor's wife even tried to play matchmaker for them, but by graduation, Iris had cut off contact with all of them. Back then, the teacher strongly urged her to go abroad for graduate studies. Iris politely declined every time. He even enlisted Leonard to persuade Iris, adhering to the principle of courtesy before force. He used a graduation gift as an excuse to give Iris a bracelet that looked undeniably luxurious. Iris refused it, but when faced with Leonard's inquiry about the reason, she still told the truth. I'm going to City J. At that time, she was extremely anxious, and the thought of Daniel made her eyes redden uncontrollably. The person I admire is sick, and I need to go back to take care of him. Leonard, my present is given by him. I can't ignore him for the sake of the future. The teacher treated her as his own. Iris filled with guilt, her tears falling like broken strings. I've failed my teacher's deep affection. Her thoughts gradually returned to the present. The young man from 4 years ago slowly overlapped with the person before her. After all these years, his appearance hadn't changed in the slightest. The breeze remains fresh and the moon bright, with orchids and jade trees gracing the scene. Yet, Iris sighed with emotion. I never thought I'd see you become a father. The man chuckled softly. I'm his uncle. After exchanging pleasantries, Iris suddenly remembered Leonard's purpose for coming. She hurriedly rolled up her sleeve to remove the bracelet. I'm sorry. Jerry gave this to me as a gesture of friendship. I never intended to keep this bracelet. I only accepted it because I was afraid of upsetting Jerry. Her words trailed off abruptly as she froze mid-action. Her wrist was suddenly pressed by the man's warm fingertips. Jerry's sincere gesture. Just accept it. It's not that valuable. Iris widened her eyes in confusion, her long lashes fluttering like butterfly wings. Isn't this what you came for? Leonard remained silent. Initially, he had indeed come for this bracelet. Nicholas's family was not short of money, but this bracelet held too special a meaning to be casually given to others. It would indeed be a loss of face to ask for a gift back once given. Out of courtesy, he had prepared a trunk full of generous gifts in his car as compensation. However, at the moment, they were likely unnecessary. He had changed his mind. He chuckled softly, the height difference preventing Iris from noticing Leonard's unreadable expression. Only hearing the man speak unhurriedly above her head. Take it. Our Nicholas family has always preferred giving bracelets when making friends. Don't disappoint the child's kind intentions. A well-reasoned argument left Iris with little room to refuse, yet some doubts still lingered. The Nicholas family is prominent and influential. Could it be that even making friends follows family traditions, requiring the gifting of bracelets as a standard practice? After such a long separation, Iris didn't decline Leonard's invitation for coffee. His gaze was too direct, even carrying an inexplicable intensity. Hard to ignore Iris, stirring the spoon in her coffee cup, she couldn't help but ask, Senior, is there something you want to tell me? 2 direct words. He looked up and met Iris's soft and clear eyes. These eyes had appeared countless times in his dreams over the past few years. Back then, under the shade of the tree, she stood there in a white dress, waving from afar. The girl smiled with faint dimples. Senior, the teacher asked me to pick you up. That pure, radiant smile instantly captured his heart. She has a beautiful smile. During the debate competition, she smiled slyly while speaking sharply. At the National Awards ceremony, she smiled with confidence and pride while delivering her speech. When playing around with her roommates, she smiled with her almond-shaped eyes curved into crescents. Even when their department organized students to volunteer for cleaning up fallen leaves on campus, and everyone was complaining bitterly, she could still step on the leaves with a lively smile. Such a radiant person. Leonard only saw her cry once, on graduation day. It was also the day he planned to confess his feelings. The girl he liked was crying in front of him, for someone else. It turned out her heart already belonged to someone else. Leonard gradually pulled his thoughts back, his mind swirling with countless reflections, yet his expression remained unreadable. I remember after graduation, you went straight to City J. Never thought I'd have the chance to meet you again in City L in this lifetime. Are you going back to City J? Iris was somewhat absent-minded, so she didn't notice Leonard's pointed tone. He just shook his head. Never again. He responded indifferently, as if it had nothing to do with him, merely asking casually. But in Iris's blind spot, Leonard turned his head away. The corners of his lips lifted imperceptibly. This documentary, recorded intermittently over half a month, sparked massive social repercussions upon its release. One particular clip was even edited out by netizens and shared tens of millions of times. At that time, the director intentionally filmed the scene to be more harmonious and warm. So each child was given a bubble wand. The air was filled with colorful bubbles, fleeting light and shadow. Amidst the laughter, Iris half crouched and glanced back, suddenly appearing in the director's frame. This clip made Iris gain widespread attention online. Even her long-neglected and overgrown social media platform was flooded with a large number of netizens. Indeed, kind-hearted people always have beautiful faces. Watched her interview frame by frame. It's genuinely warm and powerful. And the one who realized she had gone viral, Iris, had just finished offering incense at the temple. At first, she didn't believe in Buddhism, but during the days and nights when Daniel's vision didn't recover, Iris, with her restless heart finding no solace, knelt and kowtowed for him, praying to gods and Buddhas. Gradually, it became a habit. I just didn't expect to meet Leonard at Juyin Temple. I've long heard that City LS Juyin Temple has a constant flow of worshippers. And seeing it in person today truly lives up to its reputation. But her luck wasn't good. Out of 21 bamboo lots, Iris drew the worst possible fortune. She instantly paled, her brows knitting together in fright. Incense burned in the precious tripod, and amidst the swirling smoke, she knelt devoutly on a soft cushion, kowtowing 3 times with utmost sincerity. As she rose, her vision blurred from the haze, smoke choked her lungs. Iris bent over, coughing violently. A broad palm gently patted her back. Through tear-blurred eyes, she saw Leonard's face. In the distance, the tolling of a bell resounded. Leonard grasped Iris's hand, then quickly released it. The warmth faded, leaving only a wooden stick behind. I've obtained the best fortune for you, Iris. Don't dwell on the past. So, Leonard misunderstood that she came here because she was thinking of Daniel. Had he been following her from the very beginning, on the way back? The shadows of trees dappled outside the window. Iris hesitated several times, holding back her words, until the car came to a steady stop at the entrance of the rehabilitation center. Iris had just carefully chosen her words when she spotted 2 familiar figures from the past engaged in a tense exchange nearby. Through the half-lowered car window, the conversation reached the ears of the 2 inside the vehicle with perfect clarity. Daniel, I knew you'd come looking for Iris. But I'm already carrying your child. The baby can't grow up without a father. Please don't go see her, okay? Daniel pushed the person to the ground with a look of irritation. Jessica, I told you I won't acknowledge this child if you don't get rid of it. Don't force me to take action. Stop bothering me, and don't provoke Iris again, otherwise, I won't hesitate to make the Francis family disappear. Little did they know, she had already witnessed the entire commotion. As the third protagonist in the story, Iris sat in the car without much expression. Leonard turned his head to look at Iris and asked, "Do you need to step aside for a moment?" She shook her head, her tone calm. There's nothing to avoid. Ever since that documentary went online, she knew Daniel could find this place and had long been prepared. She gave Leonard a steady look, with resolute determination. I can handle this. Then she pushed the door open and got out of the car. The sound of the car door closing interrupted Jessica and Daniel's entanglement. Almost instantly, Daniel strode over in large steps. Iris, you really made me search for you. He eagerly tried to grab Iris's hand, tears falling in panic. Please don't hide from me anymore, okay? But Iris subtly stepped back a few paces, creating distance, drawing a clear line between them. You're overthinking it. I wasn't deliberately avoiding you at all. She simply wanted to start a new life without him. Iris looked up, her gaze inadvertently falling upon Jessica, who was sitting on the ground in a disheveled state. After days apart, she had lost her former vigor. Daniel followed Iris with his gaze, terrified of being associated with Jessica in any way, and hurriedly tried to prove his innocence. Iris, it's Jessica. She's been faking it all. She pretended to be weak, and I won't be fooled by her again. If you hate her, I'll make sure she never appears before you again, as long as you're willing to come back. Daniel, with every word he spoke, Jessica's face grew paler. Until now, he had always believed Iris left out of jealousy. It's quite laughable. How could a shrewd businessman, someone who had weathered several major ups and downs in the cutthroat world of commerce and still stood tall, fail to see through Jessica's disguise? He clearly let it be, and even enjoyed it. But why should his regret require humiliating and tormenting Jessica to prove his moldy sincerity? Iris looked up, fixed her gaze on him, and word by word exposed his lies. Daniel, you're truly despicable. Yet Daniel accepted it all. Scold me however you want, I was blind and foolish in the past. And I wronged you. From now on, I'll make it up to you properly. Tomorrow will be fine weather, we'll go back and get married." His face was filled with sorrow, as if losing Iris caused him unbearable pain, just as if he had truly loved Iris deeply in the past. But it didn't, Iris said. "Daniel, you never took a moment to truly cherish me. At this point, there's no meaning in dwelling on rights and wrongs, love and hate, or resentment." Iris had long stopped hating or blaming. So she just said very calmly, "Daniel, let's part on good terms, don't lose your dignity." But these words made Daniel lose his last shred of rationality. Impossible. Daniel stepped closer to her and without another word gripped Iris's shoulders tightly. "Iris, don't even think about it. Since I found you, don't even think about disappearing without a word again. No one else would dare to take you away from me. You can only be mine." As he spoke, Daniel moved to kiss her. Iris struggled violently, but the difference in strength between them was too great. She couldn't break free. "I belong only to myself." At the critical moment, a figure approached and effortlessly freed Iris from Daniel's restraint. Leonard was even taller than Daniel, and now, looking down from his superior height, Iris saw anger and authority in his usually calm and indifferent expression. "No one dares to claim her, Mr. Daniel. What kind of almighty figure do you think you are?" he sneered, his scornful words leaving no room for mercy. Daniel was shoved and stumbled, especially Iris's instinctive move to lean behind the other person stung his eyes even more. He could only rage helplessly. "And who are you? You have no right to interfere between Iris and me. Is that so?" Leonard lowered his eyes with a smile, very naturally taking Iris's hand. As she instinctively pulled back her sleeve, it revealed her fair and slender wrist, along with that vibrant, translucent jade bracelet. "She's wearing the bracelet that's been passed down in my family only to daughters-in-law. What do you think that means?" Daniel suddenly changed color. Even Iris was taken aback. She only knew the bracelet was valuable, but was unaware of this deeper significance. Yet an almost identical bracelet Leonard had wanted to give her over 4 years earlier. Some answers were on the verge of revelation. Iris felt a tempest surge within her heart, unable to calm for a long time. And Daniel was completely disarmed by his words. Only Leonard remained calm as he said, "If Mr. Daniel doesn't want his scandalous affairs to reach City L, I'd advise him to leave quietly. Otherwise, I can't predict how these matters might explode in the news, nor the impact on the Garrison family's already precarious stock situation." With that said, he gave a meaningful glance at Daniel, then cast a sidelong look at Jessica, not particularly insulting, but highly damaging. Almost instantly grasped Daniel's lifeline. He could only turn away in agony, yet unwilling to leave without saying, "Iris, I won't give up on you. He's not as good as me." No idea where that confidence came from. The lively commotion finally came to an end. Iris, her ears were once again enveloped in quiet. "You, he." Their voices sounded almost simultaneously. As their eyes met, it was ultimately Iris who succumbed to the Leonard's obscure gaze. "You go first," Leonard smiled. "Has his eyes really been cured? That seems pretty ridiculous." With that, he gracefully passed the speaking turn to Iris. "What were you going to say just now?" Iris bit her lip. "That bracelet. She's so smart, yet only when it comes to Daniel does she stumble." Now facing Leonard's feelings, she couldn't pretend to be oblivious, only realizing belatedly, astonished that he had developed feelings for her so early on. And Leonard instantly understood Iris's thoughts. "Iris, don't rush to reject me. We still have plenty of time." His voice was gentle, unhurried, and measured. His calm demeanor made it impossible to tell his back was already drenched in sweat, which in turn made Iris's hesitation seem somewhat awkward. Leonard pointed to Iris's pocket. There lay the bamboo slip he had prayed for, under the golden Buddha statue. Until the bamboo slip emerged from the tube, Leonard for the first time in his life truly believed in the saying that sincerity leads to miracles. After all, meeting you was already the best fortune one could ask for. Life is getting back on track. Daniel left, and for a while, he didn't come to bother Iris. It was said that Daniel had offended the bank manager for Jessica, which resulted in his loan not being approved, causing financial problems for his company. He was now in a real mess. However, Iris didn't care. Instead, encouraged by the dean, she began to seriously manage her social media accounts. Initially, this account was created to document her moments with Daniel. This was her secret garden, where all the little things and emotions about Daniel Iris would post privately here. Later, after becoming disappointed with Daniel, she gradually began updating about her own life. During this period, she gained significant attention. With her social media followers skyrocketing, it was a great opportunity to raise awareness about children with autism. Iris began sharing snippets of her daily life with the children. They paint together, water plants together, and practice musical instruments together. Behind every photo and caption lies a deep love for life. The comment section is also harmonious and friendly. It's truly touching. Every child has their own little world, they just don't know how to express it. Seeing these makes my cold corpse feel warm. Would you be interested in organizing an offline art exhibition? I'll be the first to attend. Among the many comments, Iris gave this one a like. For some reason, my heart swells with emotion. Once certain thoughts take root, they quickly grow into towering trees. However, with increased attention, negative comments inevitably emerge. Just a shameless bitch who only knows how to act, a homewrecker who meddles in others' relationships. This anonymous comment quickly rose to the top of the likes in the comment section, with many people eagerly following the drama. Really, OP, can you elaborate? She looks like a nice girl, but who would have thought she's using those poor children to grab attention? What a gold digger. Iris wasn't too bothered by these harsh words. However, to avoid affecting her mood, she quietly logged off the social media platform. Little did she know, behind the screen, Jessica was staring at the monitor with a venomous expression, muttering to herself, Iris, you ruined my plans. How dare you still act all high and mighty while being adored by everyone? If I'm not doing well, you should have your reputation completely ruined too. A pet should never overstep its owner. The next day, Iris was startled awake by the ringing of the phone. On the other end of the phone, Dean David said anxiously, Iris, you need to check online immediately. A group of anti-fans has flooded in, all criticizing you. Iris had just woken up and was still feeling somewhat groggy. The dean's voice continued over the phone. Even our rehabilitation center's official account has been overrun, with people accusing us of putting on a show, they also said. The urgent words halted here as Iris paused, hesitating to continue. Iris felt a twitch between her eyebrows. The refreshed page on her phone had already given her the answer. They even claimed she was the other woman who ruined someone else's relationship. Last night, an article accusing her suddenly went viral, seemingly boosted by paid traffic. With its popularity stubbornly high and the hashtag solely tied to her name. The article vividly recounts how Iris destroyed the childhood sweetheart's relationship, causing the girl to leave the country heartbroken, and also describes how, when the girl returned to try to reconcile, Iris acted maliciously and cunningly to tear them apart. The use of rhetorical flourishes is so skillful that even Iris, a humanities student, couldn't help but admire it. The emotions of netizens were quickly stirred up, and Iris was instantly placed on the pedestal of guilt, subjected to the judgment and abuse of countless netizens. No need to guess who posted this. Iris tightened her grip on the phone. It didn't matter if she was the one being criticized. But the rehabilitation center had also been affected. Because of this, the director, despite his advanced age, couldn't find peace and was still worrying about her. She sighed and assured him, Don't worry, director, I'll handle it properly. Clearly, someone is fanning the flames behind this incident. A day has passed, and instead of subsiding, the controversy has only intensified. Even the entrance of the rehabilitation center was targeted by ill-intentioned individuals with banners reading, Iris, get out of City L. With such a grand display, it's not hard to guess this is Daniel's doing. So, is this his way of refusing to let go? Force myself to go back and beg him. As expected, when night fell, Iris received a call from Daniel. The man on the phone finally stopped acting like a rabid dog, instead becoming calm and composed. Iris, this matter can only be resolved by me. He seemed somewhat smug. You see, the man you've been dealing with in City L is completely useless. It's been 2 days since this incident blew up, and he hasn't shown his face. His tone lifted lightly at the end. Iris, only I am your final destination. But Daniel miscalculated. Leonard didn't refuse to help her unwillingly. But was Iris repeatedly declined, so why would she go the long way around and beg Daniel for help? After 4 years of day and night companionship, not only did she fail to receive Daniel's genuine care, but it also made him think she was someone easy to bully. From beginning to end, he never truly understood her. In contrast to Daniel's petty triumph, Iris's gentle tone remained unruffled. She was somewhat disappointed. Daniel, you don't understand me at all. I don't need your help. Nor do I need your condescending mercy. The only thing I ask is for you to get out of my life. The tone on the other end suddenly changed, filled with stubborn unwillingness. "Iris, I refuse to believe you don't love me." But Iris was absolutely certain. She calmly said, "Do you know how I confirmed that I completely don't love you anymore? From the moment I started finding your face repulsive. For example, right now." The youthful filter had long since shattered completely in the face of Daniel's actions. "Why?" His tone suddenly turned mournful and agitated. She knew Daniel too well. So even through the rippling electronic music, Iris could vividly picture Daniel's restless and irritable demeanor in her mind. He raised his voice in accusation. "As if you were the one who had been utterly wronged. You endured those 2 miserable years of mine. Why do you say you don't love me now when everything has gotten better? I know you hate me for being entangled with Jessica, but now I've completely cut ties with her. Iris, your little tantrums should be enough by now. I have money and power. I can give you everything you want. It's impossible for you not to love me." In just a few words, Iris was reminded of some old memories. When she was with Daniel, she wasn't spared from cold stares and mockery. Everyone said Iris was only doing this because she saw Daniel as a starving camel still bigger than a horse. She must be desperate to marry into wealth, even though Daniel was blind. But Iris never cared about it. Back then, her heart was filled with nothing but prayers for Daniel to recover soon. Everyone misunderstood Iris, but no one expected that even Daniel would think of her that way. Iris suddenly felt that every tear she had shed in the past was not worth it. Yet she had no intention of offering any explanation. "Daniel, perhaps one day when you learn the whole truth, you'll understand me." With that, she hung up the phone. Now things are escalating. She could no longer remain silent. Iris opened her phone. Every private post she had ever made about Daniel now became her means to prove her innocence. At first, she didn't want to take this step, but the internet never forgets. She didn't want people years later still associating her with Daniel. Iris spent money hiring PR professionals, yet she discovered that with capital forces driving the narrative, her modest budget was utterly insignificant when burned in the traffic wars. Iris made all her previously private content public. There were no tearful accusations or expressions of grievance, just a calm presentation of the timeline, recounting how she admired someone and stood by him during his unnoticed days. In the end, it was about why they went their separate ways. The online feud came to an abrupt halt. The wind changed direction in an instant. Even those who had previously angrily accused Iris of being a homewrecker now couldn't help but admire Iris' enduring love. Everyone was tracing back Iris' past romantic affairs. Only Daniel, in the vast office, swept everything off his desk. Documents and glass shards were scattered across the floor. Amid the chaotic mess, he could barely stand, half kneeling on the ground. His vision filled with crimson. Despite the bright sunlight outside the window, Daniel felt as if he had plunged into an icy abyss. His mind was consumed by Iris's first social media post. At that time, she temporarily moved into the Garrison family's home as a tool to promote their Garrison family's charitable cause. In the piano room, it was clearly their first meeting. He didn't even glance properly at this girl from the distant mountains with a humble background. Yet Iris wrote, amidst the golden dust, "I saw my light once more," she said. Once more, they said. Daniel had gone completely mad. He floored the accelerator to Jessica's apartment and smashed everything inside to pieces. Then he grabbed Jessica by the throat, his cruelty fully revealed. "Bitch, didn't I warn you not to mess with Iris? Why won't you listen? You want to play deaf, you want to die. Today I'll grant your wish." The pressure from his palm suddenly intensified. But Jessica didn't beg for mercy. Having been a wealthy heiress for years, she simply couldn't accept her family's downfall and wanted to climb the social ladder by using Daniel's influence. Now that the truth was exposed, she unexpectedly developed a backbone. "But didn't you tacitly allow it too? How could I alone have the power to escalate things to this extent?" She alternated between tears and laughter, with a sense of destructive satisfaction. "Daniel, I may be despicable, but what kind of saint are you? While enjoying Iris's devotion, you still can't let go of the thrill of sleeping with me. Daniel, you're the one who truly deserves to die." These words froze Daniel in place instantly. The seething rage in his chest suddenly found no outlet, leaving him no choice but to slam his fist onto the cold white porcelain surface. The dull thud brought with it a piercing pain, but this pain was nothing compared to the ache in his heart. He roughly pushed Jessica away and arranged for someone to forcibly take Jessica for an abortion. Daniel fled as if escaping. He returned to the villa he had previously shared with Iris. Now the courtyard is overgrown with weeds. long devoid of any human presence. It had been ages since he last returned here. This was once the home he shared with Iris, filled with their memories everywhere. Daniel simply couldn't bear the suffocating sleepless nights, so like a deserter, he fled and never looked back. Yet in just a few short months, all traces of her had completely vanished. The air was heavy with a stifling scent, no longer carrying the floral fragrance she once loved, as if she had never been here. Daniel stood in the empty villa, opened his phone again, and scrolled through Iris's social media accounts. Each post was proof of her love for him. At first, this was her secret crush diary. He looks so handsome in his suit. And standing next to his childhood sweetheart, they make such a perfect pair. I sincerely hope they'll be happy forever. Still girlishly paired with some adorable emojis. Will we ever meet again in this lifetime? All those unspoken words of gratitude. After watching his latest interview video, I felt suddenly enlightened and no longer lost. I'm going abroad for graduate studies. Only by standing higher can one see further. He fell ill, and it seemed no one loved him anymore after he lost his sight. This place became her prayer diary. In the snowstorm of December on Changbai Mountain, Iris walked devoutly step by step, just to hang a red prayer ribbon for her in the cold wind. She spent half a day each week copying scriptures at Shufo Temple, completing 21 volumes over 2 years, all to Daniel accumulate good karma. There were still 1,800 steps left. The jade talisman of peace she had prayed for with 3 kneelings and 9 prostrations was shattered the very next day by Daniel in a fit of rage. These, Daniel never knew, nor did anyone else. In a world unknown to others, she loved with grand gestures. She had her little temper too. After getting together, this became her little grudge notebook. Today, his clothes had another woman's perfume, but he said it was just acting for the occasion, unavoidable in socializing, so I'll forgive him this once. On the 361st day since his sight was restored, why hasn't he proposed yet? He's too busy, so I'll forgive him for the 41st time. Found a ring at home, the one he originally bought for Jessica. Does he still not let go? The next day, I received a ring he had his secretary buy. Whatever, forgiving him for the 63rd time. His fingers trembled as he scrolled through each one, until he saw the last post about him. It was her farewell letter. Jessica returned to her home country. He didn't propose to me at his birthday party, and he jumped into the pool for his white moonlight. This is the 99th time forgiving Daniel. Daniel, I'll never like you again, so. She had already decided to say goodbye completely from that moment on, yet he remained self-deluded, thinking he could manage 2 relationships and confidently juggle between them. He trampled on Iris's sincere feelings. The screen suddenly became blurry. It was Daniel shedding tears. All of this, he knew too late, far too late. Daniel suddenly remembered the last phone call, Iris hinting at something when she said, "Daniel, perhaps one day when you learn the whole truth, you'll understand me." Why is it so? Despite all the suffering she endured, she was still willing to give him chance after chance. From the very beginning, she threw herself into the flame like a moth, never knowing retreat. Daniel searched frantically around the house, every room, every corner, looking for any trace of Iris. In the upstairs storage room, Daniel carefully opened an exquisitely wrapped box. It was a black coat. Daniel immediately recognized it as his own, a limited edition luxury item he purchased from across the Pacific for a 6-figure sum. Hazy memories began to resurface. Daniel suddenly realized the truth. So it was never her investing in him all along, nor was it because she wanted to use him to climb the social ladder, nor was it because she had harbored a secret crush on him for so long. It was simply because a small act of kindness he once casually offered had illuminated Iris for a long time. Thus, she couldn't bear to see him fall into the mire. The liquor cabinet still held some strong spirits that had traveled across the ocean. Daniel took them all out. After touching the truth, he didn't even have the courage to call Iris anymore. He could only rely on these things to stimulate his nerves. Daniel carried the alcohol upstairs and entered the room he shared with Iris. He leaned against the empty corner of the wall, gulping down large mouthfuls of alcohol. Meanwhile, his phone buzzed again with a new news alert. It was a video. A reporter had arrived at the rehabilitation center to interview Iris. Probably Iris also wanted to take this opportunity to clarify everything, so she didn't avoid the camera. Will this incident cast a shadow over your future life? Under the high-definition lens, she still looked stunningly beautiful. Iris shook her head gently, her tone soft and tender. It's not really a shadow. I've long since moved forward with big strides. Only those trapped in the story would see it as gloom. the bottle in his hand could no longer be held. Falling to the ground and rolling under the bed, Daniel crouched down but couldn't reach the bottle no matter how he tried. Instead, beneath the bed leg, he found a dust-covered photo. The setting is beneath the Fulfillment Pagoda. The golden cauldron stood majestic, with the wind howling fiercely, and the colorful prayer flags fluttering behind them. Iris had tousled hair and a face slightly reddened by the wind, yet she still smiled brightly as she pulled Daniel to take a photo. Daniel. They say every prayer and wish made beneath the pagoda will come true. Back then, she closed her eyes in devotion, murmuring wishes for Daniel to have a smooth sailing life, yet Daniel was full of impatience, scoffing at her naive foolishness. Even during group photos, he went through the motions absent-mindedly, fiddling with his phone, and to this day, he still remembers. The phone displayed Jessica's recent updates. At this thought, Daniel could no longer hold back and burst into tears. It wasn't until midnight that Daniel finally calmed down. He dialed Iris's number again. This time she didn't block him. After several beeps, Daniel heard soft breathing on the other end. She wasn't in a hurry, just waiting for him to speak first. Daniel took deep breaths, trying to keep his voice calm, but the tremble at the end of his words was still involuntary. Iris, I'm sorry. I was too self-righteous. From beginning to end, I wasn't worthy of you. I'm sorry, truly sorry. Words begging for forgiveness couldn't escape his lips. Daniel was like a child who had done wrong, incoherently repeating apologies. But in reality, Iris never expected Daniel to truly repent and apologize. After all, staying by Daniel's side had always been her own willing choice. She truly, in the past, had always been grateful to Daniel. On the day they reunited at the Garrison family's villa, she had so much to say to Daniel. But the unfamiliar look in his eyes made it clear he didn't remember her. How could a girl he once cared for in the blood-stained ruins so easily become the most forgettable moment in his memory? So, was the coat he draped over her back then merely a performance for the media? Or was there truly a moment when his heart was moved? Iris couldn't figure it out. But none of that matters anymore. Iris just tightened her grip on the phone, calmly responding to the sobbing voice on the other end. Daniel. Don't say sorry, just say goodbye to me properly. Don't let our last page rot too. After hanging up the call with Daniel, Iris felt inexplicably exhausted. Everything finally settled, and she lay in bed sleeping until the next morning. No more nightmares would trap her over and over again. On social media, Jessica was exposed and criticized mercilessly. Iris, as the wronged victim, was inevitably drawn into the center of the storm, since Iris gave the interview. More journalists have caught wind of the hot topic and are now camped outside the rehabilitation center. Director David had no choice but to wave his hand and grant Iris a few days off. Might as well enjoy the peace while it lasts. Iris thought that the messy love triangle between her, Daniel, and Jessica would at least be a topic of online discussion for several days. I never expected to wake up and find all traces gone. Iris stared blankly at her phone when suddenly Leonard's name popped up on the screen. As she answered, the hum of car engines and the sounds of children playing accompanied his voice, all ringing in Iris's ears. Iris jumped off the bed, ran to the window, and yanked the curtains open. Sunlight flooded the room. She saw the tall, slender figure leaning against a car downstairs. For some inexplicable reason, her heart swelled with emotion, and she felt a sudden warmth in her chest. Her voice choked up as she spoke. Leonard, thank you. She wiped away the traces that had made her feel embarrassed. On the other end of the phone, his tone was gentle and composed, as light as a breeze. No need for thanks. Let everything settle down soon. And return early. And also, Leonard paused in his tone, his deep voice brushing past Iris's heart like a feather. Jerry said he misses you. She suddenly smiled, asked, is it just Jerry? Silence, only the sound of the wind blowing. Then he looked up and immediately caught sight of Iris's figure. And me, Iris, I miss you too. The weather is nice today. Come out and get some sun. Iris agreed and got ready in record time. Little did she expect that Leonard would step on the gas and drive her straight back to their alma mater. Her mentor's home was in the faculty residential area behind the school. During her 4 years of university, Iris had shared countless meals prepared by her mentor's wife with Leonard. Now, standing at the foot of their building again, she still knew the way like the back of her hand. Yet Iris couldn't help feeling a touch of homesickness. How can a young woman like you not fight for her future, with such a golden opportunity right in front of you? Are you really going to give it up? The older generation always has stubborn thoughts, and in the end, the teacher got so angry that he told her to get out. Don't let me see you again." She began to feel like retreating. The teacher probably didn't want to see his rebellious student anymore. But Leonard reassuringly patted her shoulder and gave Iris an encouraging look. "We've already communicated with them. Teacher Yen welcomes you very much. Can you smell the aroma? I bet the dishes are ready by now." Back then, the unpleasant parting with the teacher had always been Iris's lingering regret. She looked up at the third floor, where the hallway window was open, faintly carrying the sound of a range hood and the aroma of cooking. She took a deep breath and strode inside. In her dreams, she had imagined countless reunions with the teacher, him blaming her, scolding her, or perhaps pretending nothing had happened and that she was never his student. Little did she expect that on the day of their actual reunion, it was her teacher who opened the door for her. With a kind gaze that swept over her, it was the teacher whose eyes reddened first, saying, "You've suffered a lot during this time." Now, the teacher and his wife have long since retired. Even without teaching, they still maintain the habit of keeping up with the news. So naturally, they had heard about Iris's situation. All the knots in the heart were untangled over a warm lunch. After the meal, the teacher clamored to play chess with Iris. He had always prided himself as the chess champion, unbeatable in the staff residential area, until years ago when he lost to Iris, a little girl, in a game. Who would have thought that after all these years, he still couldn't let it go? Meanwhile, the teacher's wife, who hadn't seen Leonard for years, pulled him into the study for a heartfelt conversation. Amidst the black and white pieces of the board game, the teacher spoke slowly. "Not until I saw the news did I finally understand the choice you made back then. The world was never simply black or white, nor can it be judged purely in terms of right and wrong. At my age, I realize I've lived with less wisdom than you." The black stone is placed. The teacher beamed with joy. "This time, you didn't outplay me." Iris lowered her head with a smile. "It was just my luck back then. I'm a student you taught, at best carrying a hint of your style. How could I ever compare to you? The pear soup simmering in the kitchen is ready. My wife has caught a cold recently and has been coughing a bit." The teacher pointed to the kitchen and called out to Iris, "Go pour some for your teacher's wife, or she'll forget to drink it again later." Iris did as told. But as she held the bowl in one hand and reached for the doorknob with the other, she froze in place. The topic of their discussion was actually about her. The teacher's wife gossiped. "Does this mean you two are together now?" Leonard shook his head calmly. "She just knows how I feel. I want to give her enough time to think about whether her world really needs me in it." Still waiting, the teacher's wife suddenly raised her voice, sounding exasperated. "How many years have you waited already? Such a great opportunity. And you're not seizing it. So how much does she actually know? Does Iris know you've been running back and forth between Lin Shui and Jiang Qing all these years? Or how long you've stood outside her building?" It turned out that during all those years she loved Daniel. There was someone who silently watched over her, just as she did for Daniel, in the living room. The teacher didn't see Iris come in for a long time and naturally assumed Iris was afraid of disturbing them. "Iris, just go in. They don't have anything important to talk about today." As the words fell, the room fell silent again. Footsteps sounded as the teacher's wife walked out. She just gave the teacher a reproachful eye roll before looking at Iris with meaningful implication. "What do you mean by no serious business? How could my student's life event not be considered a serious matter? Don't you think so, Iris?" Iris looked up and immediately met his deep, pool-like gaze. But he said nothing. On the way back, Iris was preoccupied with thoughts. Leonard smiled gently. "Don't feel burdened, Iris. I just want to accompany you in doing what you wish." Whether it was silently accompanying her through heart-wrenching emotions, supporting her as she emerged from the depths of despair, or standing by her side to weather the storms of online controversy, just like this moment, he accompanied her in resolving the misunderstanding with the teacher. In the eyes of others, Leonard has always been as aloof as a pine tree atop snow. It's hard to imagine how such a person could be trapped in the sea of emotions, yet it was him. With silent affections like a still pool of water, flowing through Iris's every moment of emotional turbulence, Iris suddenly reddened her eyes. As the year draws to a close, colorful lights adorn every tree along the street, across the river in the distance. A ceremony is being held at some hotel. Bursts of sound erupt as brilliant fireworks ascend, illuminating half the sky. Outside the car window, lights and shadows flicker past in an instant, yet she suddenly turns her gaze toward Leonard. Gaze tender and affectionate, in the corners unknown to her, Leonard had taken so many steps toward her. The final step, let her be the one to take it. "Leonard, spend every year ahead with me." The screech of brakes suddenly sounded. the red light turned on. Leonard turned his head, fingers tightening on the steering wheel. Iris, may I kiss you? The seatbelt was pulled out long, very long, a narrow space, a dim environment, and suddenly the distance between them closed, warm breaths intertwined. A fleeting kiss, yet it made Leonard's heartbeat, which had been disqualified for years, finally at this moment, fall into her ear. He said, "This is the seal." Iris thought she would never see Jessica again in her life, but in reality, they unexpectedly crossed paths at a charity auction at the end of the year. Iris attended as a special guest. Leonard accompanied his family, yet Jessica flaunted herself arm in arm with a married man. In the hotel's winding corridor, their eyes met. Jessica's gaze flickered with discomposure. Iris had long known from financial news, the Francis family went completely bankrupt, with Jessica's father thrown into prison, and Jessica also burdened with massive debts. Her once lofty pride, which had looked down upon everything, was ground into dust under the daily threats and intimidation of debt collectors. She willingly became the clinging vine of a powerful man. Leonard was on the phone downstairs, and at this moment, the only person standing opposite Jessica was Iris. Jessica quickly changed her expression and walked over with a sway of her hips. Even though she had been in a sorry state during this time, in front of Iris, she still maintained her haughty demeanor. "Little pet, after all this time, haven't you returned to your master's side? Has he abandoned you? Look how pitiful, all alone." Jessica lost to Iris, a pain she carried for life, yet she didn't blame herself for being the other woman, nor did she blame Daniel for being fickle. Instead, she always sought to step on Iris to highlight her own uniqueness. Years ago, during those 2 months when Iris lived under someone else's roof, Jessica treated her like a pet, but now, Iris smiled calmly and said succinctly, "Dogs rely on their master's power to bully others, Jessica. When it comes to groveling and begging for favor, you certainly have more authority to speak." Jessica was about to say something more when she saw Iris standing beside the elevator as its doors opened. The woman at the forefront had an extraordinary presence, adorned with jewels and exuding elegance. Behind her followed a group of highly trained bodyguards dressed in black. She is the lawful wife of that married man. Habits are always hard to change. Jessica, relying on her youth and experience in sabotaging relationships, performed the same provocative and boastful act towards the lawful wife of her newly involved man. But Jessica forgot, she's not the only one in this world who can make a scene. That first wife isn't someone to be trifled with either. "Arrest this bitch and beat her hard." The scene instantly descended into chaos. Jessica's screams were incessant, everything happened too suddenly. Even Iris felt somewhat bewildered. Unsure how to extricate herself from this chaotic situation, the next second, she fell into a warm and broad embrace. The familiar scent of pine wood instantly calmed her nerves. Leonard wrapped her entire body in his oversized trench coat. A gentle yet crisp voice sounded by Iris's ear. "Better not to watch this commotion. Don't let her blood splatter on you, filthy." On the ground, Jessica was beaten until covered in blood, but Iris was shielded in Leonard's embrace, untouched by a single leaf. Jessica was always competing with Iris, unaware that their statuses had long been clearly distinct. Immersive translate. In the season of melting winter snow and flourishing grass, at Iris's suggestion, the Rehabilitation Center held an art exhibition featuring paintings by children with autism. The exhibition was grandly held, attracting many groups concerned about children with autism and Iris's fans who came specifically for it. Iris, as a core member, was busy running around. She even wanted to personally oversee the placement of every single painting. She knows every young writer and the world the children want to express. Daniel also went. The familiarity of the past was like a brand. Iris spotted him at a glance, only. At some point, even the black trench coat looked oversized on him. He has lost a lot of weight, looking gaunt and emaciated. There seemed to be an unfathomable sorrow between his brows, but in just a moment, Iris averted her gaze. Someone in the venue called out to her. The little boy took her hand, revealing a section of her fair white wrist, where the emerald jade bracelet clinked against the zipper on the boy's clothes. A tinkling sound rang out. He watched as they walked hand in hand, slowly approaching the man not far away. His expression was gentle, a smile playing at the corners of his lips. Leonard slowly spread his arms open. Iris buried her head against his shoulder, murmuring something coquettishly. The dull ache in his heart began to throb again. Having seen how she loved him, Daniel couldn't deceive himself anymore. As Iris said, she had long since moved forward with great strides. She has found the happiness that truly belongs to her. Daniel stood at the entrance of the venue for the entire afternoon. He silently watched the crowd. Iris was shining brightly. She explains things to people and takes photos with them. She receives too much praise and admiration from people. She was never a glimmer. She is the grand brilliance. There is a power that illuminates everyone. Daniel went to the old house alone. Despite the overgrown weeds, he inexplicably felt a sense of peace. He moved the old-fashioned clock back and shut himself in that small room. Ding dong. Ding dong. 1, 2, 3, 4. Gradually, only the sound of the clock remained in the entire old house. Daniel has trapped himself in memories. By the time he was discovered, his body had already completely rotted and withered. Daniel's suicide was reported in the news. At this moment, Iris was with Leonard, preparing to go look at wedding houses, but she didn't react much, turning off the TV and then taking his arm. Everyone must take responsibility for their own decisions. We must also move forward.